the Go Berserk with Email podcast with Navy nuclear engineer turned email software developer, Troy Broussard. So calm.
I'm pissed off, but I'm telling this because I am teaching you how to think differently and how to test differently.
So patient.
And Ben, that's put $500,000 into this company too, is being told that nobody can find the goddamn bug.
So charitable.
I'm going to start paying bounties every time somebody finds a bug. We're going to deduct $10 for that week.
So trusting.
Do not assume that anything works. Assume that nothing works.
And so sweet, it makes sugar taste just like salt.
I want to play into the sexiness of marketing automation, but I also want to slap the complexity of it.
The Go Berserk with Email podcast begins now.
We are back again in your earbuds for another Go Berserk with Email show. I like the announcer style. I like to make it a grand entrance.
We want to pull the mic down from the center of the stage. Let's get ready to rumble. There we go.
That's right. Let's get ready to email.
There we go. There we go. All right, man. Well, today's going to be fun. I am going to talk about this infectious disease. And no, it's not tinnitus, but it's featuritis. We are going to be talking about the competitors' approach to out-featuring each other and their lovely little featuritis comparison shopping charts that, oh, we do this and they don't do that and all of this other nonsense. And then we're going to contrast that with useful features. So that is where we're going to take it today. Jonathan, you better just strap in, baby, because I'm amped up, got a monster in hand, and energy is ready to go.
Well, let's do it, man. I'm curious to hear why you guys are so stripped down.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, everybody that looks at our site will say, well, how come you don't list comparison features to, XYZ other platform? And we don't, right? We simply don't do it. And the reason is that as a software developer, I can tell you that the curse of software is this infectious disease of featuritis, where the software developers get so fixated on just checking off a list and saying, we do this and we do that, in order to keep up with the Jones in their niche of being equal or on par with all these features, that they lose sight of the actual usefulness of the feature. They don't even evaluate whether this is something that they want to do because it improves the features that the user actually needs, or if they're just doing it to keep up with the Joneses. So I wanted to give a really concrete example of this because I think this kind of demonstrates the way that we look at this inside of Berserker Mail. So one of the things that is touted out there as something to do, and I'm not even actually going to discuss or debate the merit of this particular feature. I don't personally do it, neither does Ben, but there's a lot of people for which split testing is a very desirable feature to have. A lot of people want to be able to split test their subject lines and learn over time what is more effective, what is less effective, what resonates with their audience, etc. And I am not even going to say that there's not merit to it. I think there is merit to it. It's just not something I have time to deal with, and I just focus my time elsewhere. It's kind of the minor thing, and I try to major in major things and not minor things. So I just don't devote any time to it. But I think it is a useful feature. And so, we added split testing to Berserker Mail from the beginning. But here's the thing. In order to do split testing right, you really have to approach it from a scientific level. You really have to approach it from an apples to apples comparison. And what most platforms in the industry do is they just randomly divide the list into two segments and call those splits. The problem with that is, first of all, don't even get me started on the concept of there's no such thing as random on a computer, but it's true, which is funny because I went through TSA one time and they had somebody holding an iPad with a touch screen and it said, "Touch me." Like, in today's woke world, holding something and saying "touch me" from a federal agency feels a little bit awkward. Okay, I'm just saying, Jonathan, feels awkward. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So the whole point of it was, when you touch the screen, it would randomly assign you into one line or the other. And the line on the right was the one that was getting the, strip search anal probe line. That was a highly desirable option B line. And in order to get selected, you had to touch the screen and be randomly assigned, right? And I just sat there laughing. And the TS agent is like, "What is up with you?" And I said, "Do you realize that you spent $1,500 on an iPad, $1,500 on this piece of equipment to do one thing and turn it into nothing more than a magic 8-ball? And the only thing that it's supposed to do is provide a random answer. And it's the one thing that computers cannot do. You literally spent $1,500 on a computer to do the one thing it's physically impossible of doing, and that's randomizing an answer." And, the irony was lost on him. Certainly the intellectual level didn't quite rise above that bar that I could have a good conversation, Jonathan. But I gave it some merit. I gave it, the old college try. But that is the equivalent of the stupidity that most platforms do when you do email split tests. They just randomly throw two groups of contacts together and say, "This is your split." The problem is that that's not what you want. As a marketer, there's really two primary ways that you do split tests. And we created kind of a third way, that's just a hybrid of the two. But having done a lot of split tests on large multi-million contact email lists, I can tell you that one of the things that's really important is the account age. If you're doing a split test and one split has people that have joined in the last 30 days and the other split is people that joined over 2 years ago, you're going to get radically different results from those two emails. And it has nothing to do with the subject line. It has to do with the composition of the split itself. So account age is a huge determination in how you want to split things up. But another one is equally the ESPs. So if you do one split that's all Yahoo and one split that's all Gmail, again, you're going to get radical differences based on the way you have deliverability or reputation with those individual ESPs. And so when I was conducting split tests for large organizations, we would always go through a painstaking effort to create those splits so that we would create two segments that were tied to either the account age or that they were randomly distributed by the same amount of Gmail addresses in both, roughly the same amount of Yahoo addresses in both, et cetera, right? Because that gave you a more scientific split of your data and gave you more useful results. And if you just randomly pick stuff, the data that you would get back would just be bogus data. It wouldn't tell you anything because the test wasn't even set up properly, right? And so this is what we did. Inside of Berserker Mail, we have this ability to split test in one of three ways. Well, 4 ways. The first way, which is my preference of choice, is to just not do it at all. That's the first option. And in true spirit to simplicity, if you don't want to do split testing, we don't even show the option on the screen. You can just set your preferences to not even see it, and it won't even be there to interfere with you or annoy you in the interface. And that's quite honestly the way my account has remained for the last 2 years that I've been using it. I don't even have it visible, right? But if you want to go down that route of split testing, we allow you to make 3 choices. One of which is to split test by domain, and it'll go out and it'll try to divide your list into 2 equal segments that have about the same percentage and proportion of Gmail and Yahoo and et cetera, right? At the domain level of the ESP. And the second option is to then create 2 segments that are roughly the same age on your list. So how long the contacts have been on your list, and break them up so that they're about the same age on both halves of the split. Now, The third option is, honestly, if I were going to do split testing, what I would always do, because it's the simplest and the best way to do it, because it combines both of those two. It goes through and analyzes both the ESP, the domains, as well as the account age, and it gives you the closest it can get to two equal splits that are about the same age and have about the same distribution across the top ISPs in each side, in each segment. Now you have a feature that's worthwhile. Right now you have some data that when you split test a subject name, it works differently. And it gives you some data that makes sense from a scientific level. And so this is just an example of why features for feature's sake are just stupid. Just to say that we split test, we're not going to do that at Berserker Mail. We're just not. We're not going to add a feature just because somebody says, well, such and such site has it. Well, good for friggin' them. Go deal with them then and get what you get. Have a company that's designed by what some, 9-figure investor is dictating as being useful, or how to compete, or how to, convince people to sell their stuff. And then, by the way, telling you all along, don't send too much email. Don't send too much email because that hurts us, right? We don't do that. Berserker Mail is about email by marketers for marketers. And Ben and I both use the platform daily in our emails. I use it on multiple companies. Ben uses it in multiple as well that we share together. And, we are practitioners of what we preach. So since our businesses are reliant on the very network that we're selling to our customers, then that should give you some sense of confidence into what we do and how we do it, because we're not going to do something that's going to damage our network, because it's what our business, our livelihood, and food on the table for our children, Jonathan, is provided for.
The stakes are high, bro. You know what? As you're saying it, I have this vision of Ben, and I know that you are quite similar. Ben used to say, who can coach me? Nobody can coach me. I know me best. And I feel that attitude in Berserker Mail. And like, who's going to know what's best other than us, the people actually using this and actually in the trenches every day? And I'm going to give you kudos about one thing. When you told me that we were talking about split testing, I was like, oh, new feature? I didn't even know you had it. Because it's off in my account.
Yeah, because it's one of those features that, quite honestly, you can get lost in the allure of mental masturbation and just play around with it forever and not really have any overall impact in your business. And so we try to keep those little toys out of reach. We have them there. If you want them, if you need them, it's a setting, you turn it on and the preferences, and boom, it's just there visually. But at the same time, we don't want to overwhelm you with meaningless features for you. We want to keep the pathway clear and clean. And that's why our interface is so simple and so speedy to work with, because we don't clutter it down with all of these things. However, there are some features like this that people do occasionally use and want, and you can turn them on and you can use them till your little heart is split tested content.
Man, I got to go poke around some more and see what you guys are hiding in there. I looked at it. I'm like, it's so basic. It's just like send an email. That's what it looks like to me. But it's more powerful than that behind the scenes. But I mean, let's be honest. Most of us don't need any of that. We just need emails and inboxes.
Yeah, I literally wrote an email on my daily email list today about sometimes even the boss is surprised, because I logged in and there were some features that I had asked for quite a while. And I'm fairly hands off at this point in the management. And my COO, Nicole, who's also an owner in the company, handles most of the operational stuff. So it was cool. I logged in and I saw a whole bunch of features that had been queued up for a while that had rolled into the product. I'm like, nice surprise. So nice. Yeah, we kind of keep it to a minimum.
So what do you have coming up for us next time, Troy?
We're going to branch off a little bit in this next episode and talk about content publishing and some cool integration stuff that we do with Learnistic that I think people will be quite surprised of the simplicity of it all.
Man, I'm looking forward to that. Another Go Berserk with Email show is in the can. We will be back in your earbuds next time. Thanks for tuning in.
To get a free Berserker Mail test drive with no credit card required, go to startmytestdrive.com. From there, you can play around inside the platform without pressure. Load up emails and campaigns to see how simple the interface is, and get comfy with everything before deciding to join. That's startmytestdrive.com.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.